Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. Over the past few years, even before Disney and LucasFilm had released all of the abysmal sequel trilogy movies, a large number of Star Wars movie projects had been announced. Some have since been cancelled or transformed into Disney Plus shows, but the current number of announced Star Wars films that have never actually been cancelled is actually rather staggeringly large when you know just how many there are. And this is why then CEO Bob Chapek in October 2022 told Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, to stop making new Star Wars project announcements because there were already too many announced projects at the time. Of course, after he was fired a few weeks later in November 2022, she went right on back to announcing more and more new Star Wars movie projects, because you just can't keep a delusional radical feminist quiet for long. But before proceeding, I'd like to ask everyone to please like this video, please leave a comment, please subscribe to support this channel, and please press the bell to receive notifications. Thanks! So back on November 7th, Deadline published an article that Simon Kinberg is apparently going to write and produce a new trilogy of Star Wars movies. That's right, folks, not just one new movie, but 3 new movies. And this announcement came totally out of the blue. I don't think that anyone actually saw this coming, especially in the wake of yet another problem that recently occurred with one of the 3 new Star Wars movies that Kathleen Kennedy had announced last year at the European Star Wars Celebration in London. It was announced just this past October 25th that screenwriter Stephen Knight had exited Kennedy's now infamous new Mary Sue Ray Palpatine movie that's supposed to be entitled New Jedi Order. And it's that same movie that's supposed to be directed by that radical feminist documentarian Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, who has publicly stated that she enjoys making men uncomfortable.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
And what's even funnier is that Stephen Knight was the replacement for 2 other writers that Kathleen Kennedy had fired a few weeks before last year's European Star Wars Celebration, Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson, as I had talked about in a video that I had released at the time. So let's do a quick recap. A new trilogy of Star Wars movies to be written and produced by Simon Kinberg is surprisingly announced in the wake of Stephen Knight's departure from the upcoming Mary Sue Ray Palpatine movie that's supposed to be directed by radical feminist and self-proclaimed man-hating documentarian Charmin Obaid-Chinoy. And as of the time that I am recording this video, no replacement screenwriter has yet been found for Stephen Knight. But guess what? All of these recent announcements are coming only 2 months after Lucasfilm had announced the cancellation of that atrocious, very woke, and very female-centric Disney Plus Star Wars series, The Acolyte, which was written by Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslie Headland, and which succeeded in having the lowest number of streamed minutes for any Star Wars series that has ever aired on Disney Plus.
Power of 1, the power of 2, the power of many.
Now, what's funny about Kinberg's new trilogy is the speculation that's occurring within the shill access media, with some claiming that this newly announced set of 3 movies will be yet another sequel trilogy that will follow Jar Jar Abrams' dumpster fire of a movie, Star Wars 9: The Rise of Palpatine. In other words, some think that Kinberg's movies will be episodes 10, 11, and 12, and that they will feature Daisy Ridley's Mary Sue Ray Palpatine character as an equivalent to Obi-Wan Kenobi as a mentor of sorts. And with the Charmin Obaid-Chinoy movie clearly on an indefinite hold because there's no screenwriter currently working on it, some are suggesting that Kinberg's announced trilogy may be a replacement for Obaid-Chinoy's New Jedi Order movie. At this point, no one actually knows, and I'm not convinced that Kathleen Kennedy does either. This is the same woman who, days before the premiere of that failed series, The Acolyte, said that it brought her to tears because of how good it was, while simultaneously attacking all male Star Wars fans. But the sobering fact of the matter is this. Kathleen Kennedy's comments, when combined with the massive failure of The Acolyte, prove that she has absolutely no idea what she's doing, and that she's completely 100% out of touch with the Star Wars fandom. She's been so preoccupied with co-opting Star Wars in order to push her radical feminist agenda that she has no clue what to do with it now. She announced 3 new Star Wars movies last year at the European Star Wars Celebration Convention in London. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's Mary Sue Ray Palpatine movie that no longer has a screenwriter with the recent departure of Stephen Knight. James Mangold's first Jedi movie that's supposed to occur 25,000 years before the Skywalker saga. And finally, Dave Filoni's New Republic movie that's supposed to be around the same time as Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, and Skeleton Crew. And none of those movies are currently being filmed. But this past January is when Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu movie was announced. And it was recently reported that it finished filming and it's slated to premiere on May 22nd, 2026. But think about this for a moment. Just within the past 18 months, 7 new Star Wars movies have been announced. And of those, only 1 is actually in production, and 1 lost its 3rd screenwriter. But these aren't even all of the movies that have been announced, and whose current states aren't clear. There's also the Lando movie that Donald and Stephen Glover are supposed to be working on. There's Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie. There's Sean Levy's Star Wars movie. Then there's Patty Jenkins' Star Wars movie Rogue Squadron that was recently reported is still being worked on. And finally, there's Ruan Johnson's Star Wars Trilogy that was announced shortly before the premiere of his awful movie Star Wars VIII: The Last Jedi, which effectively permanently broke the franchise, as I had talked about in a very lengthy video that I had released on November 8th. So that's a total of 14 movies that have been announced. And the first one doesn't get released until May 22nd, 2026. If all 14 get produced, which I highly doubt, and if only 1 movie is released per year, then the last of these 14 announced movies won't be able to premiere until 2039. Kathleen Kennedy is 71 years old now, and she'll turn 86 in 2039, assuming she lives that long. Who knows, maybe she'll still be the president of LucasFilm in 2039. Ultimately, the fact that there are around 14 different Star Wars movies that have been announced, with only 1 of them currently in production, shows that Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy genuinely have no idea what they're doing, nor do they know where they want the franchise to go. They had no concrete plan for their abysmal sequel trilogy, and now they have no concrete plans for going forward. George Lucas would never have been so foolish as to announce this many Star Wars movies all at once. But I can't rule out the possibility that having this many announced movies was done to keep Disney shareholders interested. Though you would think that at least a few of the shareholders should have figured out by now that Lucasfilm is probably in a state of complete disarray, which was undoubtedly intensified by the complete failure of Kathleen Kennedy's beloved series, The Acolyte. So let's just sit back and watch where this once proud but now complete joke of a studio, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, goes from here. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to each and every one of you who has subscribed to support this channel. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, and Blue Sky by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.